Imagine you could teach Claude, the AI, a completely new skill. Not just prompting it better, but actually giving it a permanent new ability it didn't have before. A skill that runs automatically every single time it's needed without you doing anything extra. That's exactly what we're covering today. And by the end of this, you'll know how to build one yourself. If this is useful to you, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. It genuinely helps. Let's start with the most important question. What even is a skill? A skill is a special instruction file called a SKILL.md that lives inside Claude's environment. When Claude sees a task that matches what the skill is designed for, it automatically reads that file and follows its instructions. You don't call it manually. Claude detects it, reads it, and uses it. Think of it like this. Claude is a brilliant assistant with no memory of your company's specific workflows. A skill is how you hand it a playbook, permanently. Now, here's something most people don't realize about how skills actually trigger. Claude doesn't read every skill file every time. That would be too slow. Instead, it looks at two things: the skill's name and a short description at the top of the file. Based on those, it decides whether the skill is relevant to what you're asking. This means the description is not just documentation, it's a trigger mechanism. If the description is vague, the skill won't activate when it should. If it's too narrow, it misses edge cases. The best skill descriptions do three things. They describe what the skill does, they list the exact contexts where it should fire, and they're slightly pushy, almost like they're saying, "Use me here, don't skip me." Here's a concrete example. A weak description might say, "For reading PDF files." A strong description says, "Use this skill whenever the user wants to do anything with a PDF. Reading, extracting, merging, splitting, filling forms, adding watermarks, or creating new PDFs. If a PDF is mentioned at all, use this skill." The difference is enormous. The first one triggers sometimes, the second one triggers reliably. So what's actually inside a SKILL.md file? At the top, there's a YAML block. This contains the name and the description we just talked about. Everything after that is the actual instructions, written in plain Markdown. The instructions can be anything: step-by-step workflows, rules to follow, examples of good and bad outputs, links to reference files, code to run. You write it the same way you'd write a detailed brief for a very capable human who's never done this task before. Now let's make this completely practical and see how you actually build one from scratch. Imagine you are not just learning what a skill is, but actually creating one. Step 1. Create a folder on your computer called something like YouTube Content Skill. This folder represents your skill project. Step 2. Inside that folder, create a file named SKILL.md. This is the core file that defines everything. Step 3. Open the file and write the metadata section first. Name: YouTube Content Generator. Description: use this skill whenever the user wants YouTube scripts, video ideas, titles, hooks, or thumbnail concepts. If the request is related to video content in any form, this skill should activate. This part controls whether the skill gets triggered or not. Step 4. Now define the behavior instructions. Read user input, topic or idea, convert it into a structured YouTube script, generate a strong hook in the first 5 seconds, create 3 viral title options, suggest 1 thumbnail idea, keep everything optimized for retention. This is the actual automation logic. Step 5. Save the file. At this point, your skill exists as a structured system. Step 6. How do you use it? You don't manually run anything. You simply go to Claude and type, "Turn this idea into a YouTube video." If the skill is set up correctly, Claude will automatically detect the intent, match it with the skill description, activate the skill, follow all instructions, and generate a full script, titles, hook, and thumbnail idea. No long prompting needed anymore. Step 7. How do you test it? You test it by trying different inputs. Make this into a YouTube script. Turn this into a video idea. Create a viral YouTube script from this topic. If it works correctly, the output stays consistent every time. If it fails to trigger, you go back and only adjust the description section, because that is what controls activation. Now here is the key idea. You're not just writing prompts anymore. You're designing an automated behavior system that replaces repetitive prompting completely. There's a 3-level loading system worth understanding. The name and description are always in Claude's context. They're tiny, just a few words. The full SKILL.md body gets loaded when the skill triggers. Keep this under roughly 500 lines. And then, if your skill needs more depth, you can add bundled resources, scripts, reference documents, templates, assets. These only load when needed, so there's no limit on how complex your skill can get. Let's talk about structure. Here's what a skill folder looks like. You have one required file, SKILL.md. Everything else is optional, but for serious skills, you'll typically add a scripts folder for code that does deterministic, repetitive tasks, a references folder for documentation that gets loaded into context as needed, and an assets folder for templates, fonts, or files used in the output. For example, a skill that builds PowerPoint presentations might have the SKILL.md for high-level instructions, a references file explaining which libraries to use and why, and an assets folder with a branded template file. Claude reads what it needs when it needs it. Nothing gets loaded that isn't necessary. Here's a principle that separates good skills from great ones, the principle of least surprise. Now, after you've built and tested your skill, you can actually refine it over time and make it more reliable. Try different prompts, see when it fails, and improve the description or instructions until it behaves exactly how you expect. At that point, you are no longer just prompting AI, you are designing systems that behave like tools. Now tell me your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video.